Now there were other ones, CompuServe, those kinds of things, that did similar things. But AOL, CompuServe, and the like had a different idea. Yes, we are gonna connect you to the internet. You can do whatever you want on the internet. We're connecting you to the internet. Have fun. But AOL had that other kind of idea. Wait a minute. You know what? We could also be a content company. We could actually have stuff that people would do online, not just stuff that connects you to being online, right? All right. So therein lies the distinction. So many, if not most, if not every single one of the ISPs that are still out there are trying to transition at a furious pace to being people that have big pipes that connect you to the internet, from that, to people that have big pipes to connect you to the internet that also give you stuff as a part of your subscription. That means you don't have to pay other people for other content. That means they become the kind of one-stop shop for content. Think on-demand video, how that conflicts and competes with something like Netflix. Think about DVR service, where basically you have cable TV, but you can basically record any live TV events and have access to those things. Think about a lot of TVs, smart TVs. For example, I just got a DVR here through my cable service that has applications, Facebook, Pandora. It has sports applications where I can do basically live game casts of sports, weather applications. You can even put your commute in there and it shows you the traffic for your commute. I mean, really interesting stuff. Stuff that normally you would have thought you would have paid for at the other end of the ISP that was part of the content and not part of the pipe that got you there. So Red Mage's point really connects us from point A to point B here. It really shows us how we're stuck in the middle of these companies that were ISPs, Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner Cable, AT&T, how they went from being those guys that provided the pipe to not being satisfied with that, to being the people that provided the pipe but also connects you to stuff. And that is why, while I agree 100% with the Red Mage's point about the idea that we're already paying for ISP service, we're not just paying for ISP service anymore. When I signed up for my service here, I ended up I have an email address that's there, I have this whole portal, I have a whole on-demand service, I've got all of these things. Now whether I use them or not is completely up to me. I could just sit here and plug in my TVs and just watch them, right? No problem, no questions asked. It wouldn't be fundamentally different than anywhere else. But I'm paying for a lot more than that. I'm paying for a lot of stuff. And, I can use that or I cannot use that. Don't use the phone. I have no reason to have a phone. They give you a phone service with it, and I'm like, well, I don't really need that, and you can take it out if you want to charge me less, but actually they give you more. They give you more and charge you less, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, you can tell when they're always trying to get into an industry they don't really have any hold on, like voice IP communications. In any case, the ISPs, when you sign up for them in most places, actually try to give you both things now. They're giving you content and they're giving you access. Now, look at something like Xbox Live. Xbox Live has nothing to do with your connectivity to the internet. In fact, if you go to Xbox Live and you hit test connection, what you do is they paint you a diagram. They say, look, here's your Xbox. All right, now we're going to test your connection to the internet. Okay, yep, the connection to the internet's good. Now we're going to test your connection over the internet to Xbox Live. Yep, okay, I can get it. It's good. Everything's fine. That's a three-step approach. And at the meantime, I think I couldn't help but sitting there as I'm watching the screen going, why do I have the middleman there? Why don't I just have connection, internet, go? Right? It seems natural to me. But in any case, what we found, folks, and what we've stumbled upon here, I hope you all appreciate, and what Red Mages has stumbled onto, is the changing nature and the convergence of providers and content. That's the fundamental difference, and that's what we're probably really fighting about right now. Sonic Rose asked a fundamental question. Do I use the service enough to warrant it? Now that was not verbatim, but it gets to the heart of the question. In other words, is there a use case? Can I develop a use case for the services that I have? Now, many of you probably do this all the time with your MMO online, subscriptions, right? Say, okay, well, I got a busy time coming up for my work or school or whatever. I'm going to cancel my WoW subscription, and I'll get it in 2 or 3 months when I'm kind of settled again in my new routine. The reason you're doing that, it's a very good market-based decision, my time simply is not going to be able to divide up in the ways that I divide it now that I have a lot more free time. So when I don't have that free time, it's going to be very difficult to allocate my time to those games. Therefore, I'm going to eliminate it. Good. Now, obviously, Blizzard's hope is that you'll keep it anyway, because they certainly love to get those checks every month, and the way that people make it easier, not so easy to cancel services annoys the crap out of me sometimes, and I'm sure it does with you guys as well. It would be nice if I could just take a switch and flip it on and off and get paid for that switch. If it's on, it's on. If it's off, it's off. But no one works that way, and it's utterly infuriating. But think about that. I think Sonic Rose brings up a good point. Think about all the things that you use and ask yourself the question, what are the services that I use that warrant it? And I have to tell you guys, one of the reasons I'm asking this question is because now that I have this service, this cable service, and now that I'm getting all this content, I actually watched the entirety of Boardwalk Empire in the time since I've been here. It's a great thing to have on in the background while you're working, right? Okay, well, why do I need Netflix then? Isn't Netflix just eating a $10 hole in my wallet at that point? If I'm watching all my content through my cable service now? It's a good point. I don't know. I also re-upped with Xbox Live right before I came here. And now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, I don't know. Should I be using Xbox Live? I've got all this connectivity and all this content through my ISP. And so, unfortunately, what that also means is regardless of what I think about Xbox Live, I'm basically going to have it until next July, but that's okay. Even if I decide at that point I don't want it, at least Xbox has the courtesy to say, we're not going to re-up on you if you just use the cards like I do. You just go, and it's over, and you don't have to worry about it. You're not paying for anything you didn't, you're not using anything you didn't pay for, so that they charge you for it, or so on and so forth. You just kind of go out there. But if we ask ourselves in the fundamental analysis of how these services work, I think we probably expose a lot of flaws in the model, and one of the reasons why we could or could not justify it. I can't justify Netflix for the month of August. I apologize for that. I'm not sure I can justify Netflix for the month of September. The month of August, it paid for itself. I mean, I watched so much stuff on Netflix while I was waiting, to get everything settled, just to have on in the background before I had cable service. It was a valuable service. The month of August paid for itself probably twofold. September, I'm going to be very busy. This is going to be a very different month. I've got service elsewhere. Probably won't be spending near as much time at home. Do I really need it now? That's a good question. So, in any case, folks, I think what Sonic Rose is pointing to is that each of our services really do warrant that kind of deep questioning. And if we're not giving it that deep questioning, then we're not treating it with enough respect. But also, I think that what it also says is that you guys are willing to pay for services that you, number one, use quite enough. And number two, actually provide value. So something like $10 a month for Netflix is actually good. And I will be the first to say, I didn't mind when they were going to be raising their prices back in the whole Quickster debacle. I really didn't mind that. And the reason why was because I liked the idea. I thought the value case for Netflix was above $9.99 a month. I'm not like everybody else, right? Maybe some other people say, it's not even worth that much. That's fine. It's a market-based economy. Just look what happened as soon as they threatened price increases. People jumped all over them. I was one of those people that definitely was trying to pay for that. And I used to pay for Netflix when it was double that, when I get 3 DVDs a month, right? Unlimited. So the fact that I can watch a hell of a lot more movies for a lot less money at this point is just a dream for me. So anyway, let me move on from that to say, for example, the next commenter is Pyros, who talks about Netflix being worth it because of the breadth of content. Now, what does that speak to? It speaks to the idea that a service is indeed valuable, that there's something valuable about it. It's not just that, they give you some content that's, I remember, for example, I'm trying to remember the name. There was one of the first, before there was a Hulu, there were other, I think there was a service called Juice, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, in any case, it was a pay service where you jump on, or there was free stuff too, but you pay to jump on. You can get channels of all kinds. It aimed to be kind of an internet television hub, It would have live content 24/7, so you'd actually be able to watch channels that you couldn't watch otherwise. I remember there was something crazy like Audi TV. It would just show, you know, Audi content and Audi commercials and Audi corporate produced stuff all day long. What a great idea. If that's your corporate brand, right? So you could actually watch it like it was live TV, or you could go and watch, you know, old episodes of whatever. And as a matter of fact, the only reason I got it was because at that time, that was the only way to watch Twin Peaks in its entirety without having to go and buy the DVDs. Now I can watch them on Netflix, which is a different story altogether. But anyway, at that point, I got this much content. But I didn't have, what I wanted was this much content. And I think what we all want is to have almost unlimited content, where I can say, hey, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd really like to see this movie that I saw one time that blah, 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 blah. And it goes and finds the movie, regardless of it. If it exists somewhere, it'll find it and then it'll play it for me, right? That kind of database, that kind of you know, information is what I think all of us are looking for. And if we had that, I think we pay triple what we pay right now for Netflix. You know, I mean, if I could get every movie ever made, I probably would increase my Netflix price. I'd double it just to be able to get all those movies. They would never be able to pay for it, which is the reason why Netflix is having some trouble right now, but you get the point. Now, Mog brought up a very interesting point, and I thought it was, you know, I thought this was really cool. You know, so for example, Mog asked the question, you know, say, listen, service for now is what people provide, because that's all that they promise you. If I go with Xbox Live, what it promises is that, you know, all the things that you guys looked up, multiplayer gaming, entertainment services, right? All these things, you know, community, all that it does is provide a guarantee to me that if Xbox Live is in existence today, that I can use it with my gold membership in the period that I activate it. It doesn't say, by the way, that 10 years from now, if Xbox Live is no longer in existence, or if the particular game I'm trying to play multiplayer for doesn't have any servers left. They're not dedicating resources to it. It doesn't say that I can do anything with that game or that I get any of my money back at that point. So, and the example came up for Xbox One, which is a system I still use. I still use the Xbox, the original Xbox, albeit a very highly modified version. It actually, you can still do online gaming through the original Xbox, but you can't use Xbox Live. You have to use something called, well, it used to be X-Link Kai. Now I think it's just called Kai. But in any case, it's an independently served multiplayer gaming service. And I got on there and it becomes really difficult. Let me tell you something. When you get on something like X-Link Kai, you start to realize why Microsoft Live or Xbox Live is still there. Because Xbox Live takes all that crap out of the way. It realizes if you have an incompatible version, it says, you have an incompatible version? Here's the right version. You're ready to go. Just like something like Tribes Ascend does for me when I go and, hello, how you doing, Commodore? Look, you don't have the right version. Now you do. Go ahead. Right? And so, you know, the idea that it kind of ties all that together for me without doing anything else is a great thing. But the idea of playing something in 10 years really changes something, and that really strikes at the heart of the question I'm going to ask for next week. But if I want to go and play Halo, the original, right? I mean, there was no multiplayer for that game. Now, could they open up multiplayer? Yeah, I mean, look at what happened with the HD remake, right? Where you can go and play Halo. You know, someone makes a remake of a game, and they decide they're going to throw a multiplayer component on it. Absolutely, they can do that. Now, you can play that game multiplayer, but you can't play it in its original form. You can only play it in this new form. I think that's a little bit of a loss. There's something to be said about that, and I think it's interesting. All right, and lastly, and this gets to what dominated a lot of the conversation over the last half of the week, which is, and I think Mays put it best, or it was most completely after all the questions I think that were asked, and that is this. You know, there is the idea of a subscription service versus a free-to-play service, which was not brought up by Mays, but actually I think many of you talked about it as being something of an unfair advantage in offering that for, you know, really altering the game experience. And what I liked about what Mays said was that, you know, One thing I had not thought of is the idea of the introduction of kind of real life competition to the whole mix.